Greetings, brothers and sisters. I am making an epic video about this idea that they're trying to control reality. And so I was making that video this morning, but my wife and I went to eat lunch, and I turned on the impeachment for a little bit while I was waiting for my wife, and I saw that the Trump defense team that on the first day looked like a bunch of idiot chuckleheads. I couldn't believe they were actual adult lawyers. They were so, they seemed so incompetent, put on an epic montage of Democrats' hypocrisy. And so I'm just going to show you little bits of this, but you can go, this is going to be up on YouTube. It's day 3 of the impeachment trial. You can find the montage. It just happened here around lunchtime, around 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I just watched part of it, my wife and I. And it's so epic. All these things that, they get into all this stuff with Antifa, which I'm not going to show because it shows the graphic nature, but they show the hypocrisy of the Democrats encouraging those behaviors. They also have the Democrats, well, I'll show you a little bit of that. And that's where they're just saying over and over again, they want to impeach Trump. And this is long before, some of them were even in office. And, they were just saying all the time they wanted to impeach Trump. And so, but the big part is them all saying, fight, fight, fight. So let me show you those things, and then I'll comment on it.
For the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
I continue to say, impeach him! Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
So we're calling upon the House to begin impeachment hearings immediately.
On the impeachment, Donald Trump, would you vote yes or no?
I would vote yes.
I would vote to impeach.
Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the mother.
But the fact is, I introduced articles of impeachment in July of 2017.
If we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
My oath requires me to be for impeachment, have an impeachment hearing. He needs the scarlet eye on his chest.
The representatives should begin impeachment proceedings against this president.
It is time to bring impeachment charges against him. Bring impeachment charges.
My personal view is that he richly deserves impeachment.
I'm here at an impeachment rally, and we are ready to impeach them!
Well, we can impeach him every day of the week for anything he does.
That same hatred and anger has led House managers to ignore their own words and actions and set a dangerous double standard. The House managers spoke about rhetoric, about a constant drumbeat of heated language. Well, as I'm sure everyone watching expected, we need to show you some of their own words.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school, I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
And you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the
Well, this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
So not only do you have to listen to that cackle, and she is threatening to do something to one of these other, these Republican people in the elevator, but she gets it wrong. She says, does one of us have to come out alive? What she meant to say was, do both of us have to come out alive? You understand this? She posed the question, does one of us have to come out alive? No, neither one. You both will die. You know, she messed it up on top of the hypocrisy. And this is bigger than the Democrats. This is about the left-right paradigm, and I'll come back to that. But then there's all this stuff about fighting. And so let me show you a little bit of that, because that's very telling.
And there's more.
I promise to fight every single day. One, I'm a fighter and I'm relentless. But I'm a fighter and I'm relentless. A fighter and I'm relentless. I will fight like hell.
But the way I see it now is that we pick ourselves up and we fight back. That's what I think it's all about. We stand up and we fight back. We do not back down. We do not compromise, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You can either lie down, you can whimper, you can pull up in a ball, you can decide to move to Canada, or you can stand your ground and fight back. And that's what it's about. Fighting, we all need to be in the fight.
Rise up and fight back.
And so we're going to fight, and we're going to continue to fight.
I am going to be fighting like hell.
Keep fighting, or we kept fighting and we did. So we're going to keep fighting.
We have to be fighting every single day.
We have to fight back, and we have no choice but to do that. I think we're doing the right thing to do that.
Fighting.
And I'm fighting.
Well, our job right now is to fight.
It's really important. I'm going to keep fighting.
I'm asking for the support of people across the country to fight back.
And you got to be fierce in fighting. Keep fighting.
Brown have been fighting.
I've told President Biden I will fight like mad.
I'll tell you what, now more than ever, we have to fight like hell.
We have these battles on the floor of the Senate. I'm going to go down and battle, and I'm going to be down there on the floor fighting.
Right. So there's more to come. I'm only showing you a fraction of all the stuff they have on fighting. And this guy's a clown. I'll show you this guy, the guy who's the lawyer. I think it must have been some young interns that put this together, right? Because this law team that Trump has is a joke. But they did a great job of showing the hypocrisy, because the guy starts off and he shows the clip of Trump saying that we have to go to Capitol Hill and fight. And that was some of the evidence they were showing. And now you see that this is something they all say. I mentioned this in a video, but this is even better, right? The montage. And you see the hypocrisy of the Democrats' case. And this whole montage shows you the hypocrisy of the Democrats' case. And I like it, right? I think they've done a good job, but it goes far beyond that. You Trumpers and you Republicans, expanding your consciousness and seeing that this is really about the left-right paradigm, because Trump always says the word fight, and Republicans say the word fight just as much as the Democrats. And think about this, because I'm going to show you more. It gets even better. There's a whole thing with Kamala that's great towards the end of it. But in terms of what was really going on, it isn't about Democrats being hypocrites, but why are you guys always fighting? Like, why are you guys always talking about fighting? Why are you guys so violent, like all these politicians? And I'm talking about the Republicans as much as the Democrats, because this is very typical language. In fact, Trump's lawyer says this.
Fighting, I say fight on, fight on, fight on, fight on.
I'm here to say one more time publicly, this is not a fight I wanted to take on, but this is the fight in front of us now.
Every single one of you and every one of you. That's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. It's a word people use. But please stop the hypocrisy.
So he points to the Democrats and Republicans and say, hey, it's fine. You didn't do anything wrong, but you did. You did do something wrong, because you're not supposed to be fighting. Like, fighting stops everything. All work stops when you fight. When your family is fighting all the time, you can't progress. When your team is fighting amongst themselves, you can't progress. When your coworkers are fighting amongst themselves. When your country is locked in this binary struggle, a left-right paradigm, right? In terms of, when there's a left and a right, or there's a two-party system, the parties are supposed to be fighting all the time, because people are, especially in America where everyone's so immature and everyone's fighting all the time. And this is like, teenage language, like something you'd hear cheerleaders saying, fight, 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 fight. We got to fight. We got to fight, 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 fight. Like, America's so violent and people are so, there's so much animosity. I remember when I first went to India, there was, there's poverty and there's just not great things in India. I mean, it's not as nice as America materially, but I noticed that there wasn't this aggression. Like, I couldn't really describe it till I got back to America. I couldn't really put my finger on it. But in America, it's like you're always got to be ready to fight. There's always a competition. There's always aggression. And I don't mean just in terms of a physical fight, but you think about all the violence in our movies and what they export from Washington, D.C. I talked about this in a video a couple days ago. The military-industrial complex absorbs, our military budget is about half of our money, half of our income. Like 60% of our income goes to the military. And if you're an individual and you spend 60% of your income and your money on weapons and defense, people would think that you're some sort of crazy, paranoid, dangerous person that's obsessed with weaponry and spends most of their money on that, right? But as a country, we spend most of our money on weapons of mass destruction, and Washington, D.C. exports death and violence in terms of these weapons, right? In terms of the hostility that goes with them. They give these weapons or sell these weapons to other countries, or we export our own military, whatever it is, and creating conflict all over the globe in terms of fight. So it's not just the Democrats, because the Republicans use this language, Trump uses this language, but if you're going to work together, if you're going to work cooperatively, if you're going to work as a team, you have to give a little. You have to go in there. I mean, if you approached everything in your life like prepared for a fight, let's get into a fight, all the violence in the movies, right? We got to fight. We're fighters, big fighters. We don't ever back down from a fight. Fight, right? And this is what I talk about in the Heartfulness Meditation. I'm making a video where I cover this even more in depth. That'll be up hopefully tonight or tomorrow or whatever. But this idea is if you use force, you have to have a counter force, right? So whenever there's a force, you do something by force, chances are people are going to do it back to you. And so you had all these Republicans watching the Antifa riots. Then, now there was these other riots and there'll be other riots from that side. They impeached Clinton, and the impeachment of Clinton was very shady as well, right? And then the Democrats then have to impeach Trump, right? Goes back and forth and back, where it's all partisan and political. And the Democrats and Republicans are showing up every day to fight. But they're really not fighting for you because they're bought and sold by corporations and foreign governments. But they like to tell you they're fighting. And you want to hear they're fighting because you're all aggressive and you've been told, yeah, this guy's a fighter. I'm going to vote for a fighter. I want that guy to fight. Go in there and fight. And what does it mean when you fight? And this is what I was talking about, not using force. Because when you're talking about a fight, you're talking about oppression. You're talking about beating up or killing the other person. And then when you win the fight, you can impose your will. And the Democrats have won the fight because now they have the power and they're imposing their will. And they get into this thing saying, you can no longer have your version of reality. That's what I cover in this much longer video today. But think about this in terms of, what's going on with America. And it's what Trump did as well. Trump wasn't working cooperatively. Trump was fighting all the time. Trump was a fighter. He created some of this with his animosity, but it's both sides because that's why you're locked into this thing because, you hate the Democrats or you hate the Republicans and you want to have a fight. You don't want to compromise. You don't want to work together. You want to crush them. That's, the sports that we have, the military flyovers at the violent football games, which is about beating down and crushing your opponents. And all these sports are competitive and about having the killer instinct, and it doesn't work, right? It's this is a very immature culture we live in that's dependent on its military and its competitiveness to crush the enemy and keep the evil empire going. This is what I talk about in terms of going inside and having an internal spiritual journey and be a spiritual warrior where you embrace the path of your soul, where you become you go inside and you fight against your ego. You fight against your lower tendencies and the hatred and anger that you have inside of you. And you throw those things out per the heartfulness meditation where you throw out your hatred, you throw out your animosity, and you just work in a, compassionate and a productive manner. You're not sabotaging yourself. You're not, acting emotionally and getting all angry and getting all bent out of shape and flailing your hands around and fight, right? You get rid of that in you, but you still have, the spirit of a warrior, but you're not doing it to crush other people or to crush your enemy. You are using it as a way to persevere on your spiritual journey. And so you can watch this montage on one level and realize they did a masterful job at exposing the Democrats' hypocrisy. But on a much deeper level, it shows you why our civilization is collapsing because of our aggressiveness and our hostility and our immaturity and needing to fight and fight. We got to fight like a fighter fights in a fight, and never back down from a fight.
But we Democrats are fighting as hard as we can. Democrats are fighting as hard as we can. Credit it in any way, but we're fighting back.
What we've got to do is fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets, fight online, fight at the ballot box.
Fighting and pushing around the clock, fighting, continue to be brave and be strong and keep fighting. We're getting people engaged in the fight. We're fighting. We've got to keep fighting and keep focused. Continue to fight.
Fight. This is going to be a fight.
We'll also fight him and challenge him in every way that we can, in the Congress, in the courts, and in the streets.
To continue fighting.
He has never forgotten who he is fighting for. Marched and fought.
And we just have to fight. But this is a fight for our country.
Fighting the health crisis of COVID.
I led the fight and continue to fight. Never, never, never give up this fight. I'm a citizen fighting for it. It means not only fighting a leader who fought for progressive change, as a lawyer who fought for people his whole life, as well as other fights and I'm proud that to have Tim in this fight with me. And above all, it's time for America to get back up and once again fight.
We will fight when we must fight.
To fight.
We have been fighting this fight, and we need to be side by side so we can succeed. And so I hope that you will all join us in our fight. And if we fight, and as the next governor of Georgia, I will never stop fighting. We can show the old guard something new, and we can fight.
My fight, those fights, to fight an administration.
Requiring us to fight, and fight we will. Their fight, and their fight, and their fight. The fight is a fight, and so when we fight the fight that we are in, when we are fighting this fight, we fight this fight. The strength of who we are is we will fight. And we will fight the fight. We will fight. We are in a fight. The fight. It is a fight, and it is a fight born out of patriotism. This is a fight, fighting. I say fight on, fight on, fight on, fight on.
I'm here to say one more time publicly, this is not a fight I wanted to take on, but this is the fight in front of us now.
There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment or an impeachment supported by one of our major political parties and opposed by the other. Such an impeachment will produce the divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institutions. The American people have heard the allegations against the president, and they overwhelmingly oppose impeaching him. They elected President Clinton. They still support him. We have no right to overturn the considered judgment of the American people. Mr. Speaker, the case against the president has not been made. There is far from sufficient evidence to support the allegations, and the allegations, even if proven true, do not rise to the level of impeachable offenses.
So this part is mostly from 2016, where ironically Joe Biden is shutting down the House members who are protesting the results of the election on January 6th of 2017 from the election where Trump was sworn in. And Joe Biden is defending Trump's election and shutting them down. It's kind of hilarious.
Manager Raskin, you'd been in Congress only 3 days when you objected in 2017. It's one of the first things you did when you got here.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member, of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate.
And I object to the certificate from the state of North Carolina based on violations of the Voting Rights Act.
There's no debate in the joint session.
I object because people are horrified by the overwhelming evidence.
Section 18, Title 3 of the United States Code prohibits debate.
I object.
Objected to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama. The electors were not lawfully certified.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina because of the massive voter suppression and the closing of polling booths.
There's no debate. There's no debate.
16
There's
to 1,
no debate.
And the massive voting suppression that occurred to African Americans.
The gentleman will suspend.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not signed by a member of the Senate.
I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of objection?
There is no debate.
The objection is signed by a member of the House, but not yet by a member of the Senate.
Well, it is over.
So that's kind of interesting. JoJo's mocking the Democrats who are trying to stop, delegitimize Trump's win. And then there was this other piece where this guy does a good job of explaining how in 2016, all these people were saying that election was not legitimate. Of course, Hillary Clinton, but they have Nancy Pelosi in this montage as well.
Is that the president's actual words could not have incited the riot. As you alleged in your article of impeachment, you attempted to pivot. You said that raising the issue of election security and casting doubt on the propriety of our elections was dangerous. One of the House managers, Mr. Cicilline, told you that this is not about the words Mr. Trump used in isolation. Rather, it is about the big lie, the claim that the election was stolen. The House managers told you that it's the big lie that incited the riot, and that the big lie was President Trump's claim that the election was not a fair election or that the election was stolen. Claiming an election was stolen, you were told, are words that are insightful to a candidate's followers and cause people to respond violently. Claiming an election was stolen or not legitimate is something that a candidate should never do because he or she knows or should know that such a claim and such words can actually incite violent insurrection, you were told. Well, it seems that the House manager's position must be actually a bit narrower than that. The House manager's position really is that when Republican candidates for office claim an election is stolen or that the winner is illegitimate, it constitutes inciting an insurrection, and the candidate should know it. But Democratic Party candidates for public elective office are perfectly entitled to claim the election was stolen or that the winner is illegitimate or to make any other outrageous claim they can. It is their absolute right to do so. And it is their absolute right to do so, irrespective of whether there's any evidence to support the claim. Democratic candidates can claim that an election was stolen because of Russian collusion or without any explanation at all. And that is perfectly okay and is in no way incitement to an insurrection. And somehow, when Democratic candidates publicly decry an election as stolen or illegitimate, it's never a big lie. You've been doing it for years.
But can you imagine telling your supporters that the only way you could possibly lose is if an American election was rigged and stolen from you? And ask yourself whether you've ever seen anyone at any level of government make the same claim about their own election.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. And I say that publicly, it's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did.
Votes remain to be counted. There are voices that were waiting to be heard.
And I will not concede.
And I respect where you're coming from, and I respect the issues that you're raising. You're not answering the question. Do you think it was... You're not using the word legitimate.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections and of ensuring the principle of one person, one vote.
I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
But constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio and malfunctioning electronic machines which may not have paper receipts have led to additional loss of confidence by the public. This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so.
So yeah, these guys, the defense team, did a good job of showing the hypocrisy and the Democrats behaving the same way as Trump. And you can watch this as a Trumper or an anti-Democrat or anti-liberal person and say, wow, look at how bad the liberals are and the Dems. But you're missing the bigger point here. The bigger point is they both engage in these behaviors. If you haven't figured this out by now, that the reason that you think or people think that it's okay for your side to behave in one way, but for other people to behave, your opponent or the people that you don't like to behave in the same way, is because you have some divine right because you're just the good guy, right? That's the whole good guy, bad guy mentality that's been perpetrated in our movies and all of these things throughout our, American culture, our worldwide culture, our European culture, and the worldwide culture now, that there's good guys and bad guys. And when the good guys engage in torture, it's okay because they're the good guys. But when the bad guys do torture, well, they're the bad guys and shouldn't do it. When the good guys have a license to kill, like James Bond, well, they're the good guys, so they can kill people. But when the bad guys kill people, it's wrong. When Trump says something, it's right, or when Trump says something, it's wrong, right? Whatever your particular point of view is. When Hillary Clinton says something, it's okay, but when she says it, it's not okay because, you're a Republican. But if you're a Democrat, it's okay when she says it. Trump can't say it, but Hillary can. Or Hillary can say it, or Trump can't. You understand this? It's the same behavior. It's the behavior that's the problem, not the person who's doing it or the side in which is perpetrating the behavior. That's why war is hypocrisy. That's why all these types of behaviors are wrong. America can have nuclear weapons, but Iran can't. America gets to have nuclear weapons because we're the good guys, but Iran isn't, so they don't get to have them, right? You understand this? And you have to go beyond that and realize it's the behavior that's the problem. If you're going to complain about somebody else doing some behavior, then don't do it yourself. Otherwise, everyone gets to do it. If you don't like somebody saying some words and you're like, I wish they wouldn't say those words, and then you say basically the same words, then you got to, allow them to have the right to do the same thing. Everyone should understand this. And so if you're going to do something, that opens the door for somebody else to do the exact same thing for you. What goes around comes around. It's a spiritual principle, and that's what's wrecking our world today because people think that they get to do things that they don't want other people to do. And this is the materialistic view of the world instead of connecting to God and facing yourself and your own hypocrisy. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.